Thomas Massey, thanks for coming in, man.
Absolutely.
Good to see you, dude.
Good to be here. Just had to cross the state border to get here.
Yeah, that's what I see from Kentucky. And you drove, like, you just took me into your home, in your camper home vehicle.
It's a F-250 with a truck camper, and I lived for 2 solid years in it in D.C. Still occasionally do.
And where would you park that thing at?
Well, I don't want to disclose where I park, but I did get...
Better get it out today. Today's guest is a congressman from Kentucky's 4th District. He is from Appalachia, and he got a master's degree at MIT before he got into politics. He's a member of the Republican Party, but he's a bit of a rogue guy. He does things his own way, and I'm fortunate today to spend time with Congressman Thomas Massey. Thomas Massey, thanks for coming in, man.
Absolutely.
Good to see you, dude.
Good to be here. Just had to cross the state border to get here.
Yeah, that's what I see from Kentucky. And you drove, like, you just took me into your home, in your camper home vehicle.
It's a F-250 with a truck camper, and I lived for 2 solid years in it in D.C. Still occasionally do.
And where would you park that thing at?
Well, I don't want to disclose where I park, but I did get in trouble. I parked the truck camper. It's a Super Duty. It's got even though it fits in the back of a pickup, it's got a shower, bathroom, stove, and a fridge.
It felt super when I was in there. That living arrangement in there, I could have definitely cozied up. It felt very cool. The milk felt cold in there. We had a cup of milk, which is definitely
raw milk.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure it is. Hopefully.
Don't tell anybody I crossed state lines with that. But, so here's a funny story. I was parking this truck camper in D.C. in a congressional lot, and it got hotter than the hinges of hell in the summertime in this parking lot. So I ran a little extension cord over to the electric car charging station so I could run the air conditioner on my camper at night. Well, the cops like to park, they didn't know I was living in this camper, and I would park close to a Sprinter van, and the cops would park between me and the Sprinter van to take a nap at night.
So everybody's working together.
Yeah, I would look out the camper and do a wellness check on them at night. They didn't know I was looking out for them. But anyways, one night...
That's diplomacy, it's how it all works. It's like everybody's kind of hiding a little bit behind the other group.
One night it was like that movie Bridge Over the River Kwai. They found my 50-foot extension cord and followed it over to the electric car charging station. They said, damn, there's somebody living in this truck. So my chief of staff got a call from the speaker's chief of staff, and he said, we think your boss is living in lot 28. And he said, what do you mean, in a pickup truck? And I told my chief, don't call him back, let me settle this. So we have a don't ask, don't tell arrangement. As long as I don't start a KOA or something in the congressional lot, I can live there.
If the cops are getting a little bit of shut-eye, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's crazy. We have a congressman that lives in the parking lot.
Able to operate a grill, you know, or a little 2-stroke motor in there, something to keep the blender working.
Well, you know, I gotta mix my medical margaritas in there and keep the raw milk cold. So what I eventually did was cover it in solar panels and took off the old air conditioner and put a mini split on the back. So it looks like the Millennial Falcon now.
Oh yeah, it definitely looks like the guy that's in there. It definitely seems like you want to get his fingerprints. That has a CODIS vibe outside of it, you know. But that's isn't it? A lot of your vibes that you're off the grid. I've heard that.
Yeah, off the grid in the camper and off the grid at home. So I haven't bought public utilities in 20 years.
Wow.
And that, you know, that kind of ties into when I go to DC. That gives me some independence, because if everything goes to hell and I'm no longer a congressman and I don't have a job, I still got a house where all my own utilities are taken care of. It runs off solar, got a backup generator, got a well that I dug.
He's a Republican.
It just gives you the sense that, okay, the worst day in Kentucky is better than my best day in DC.
And this is you right here? This is you right here?
Yeah, that's one of my gardens, and there's some of my chickens clucking around.
Oh, yeah.
I built a mobile pen that moves with the chickens to keep the coyotes from eating them. Now, it's like a Roomba. Think of a Roomba with 50 chickens in it,
Okay.
moving around in my yard. It runs on solar, collects rainwater, and it takes care of my chickens when I'm not there.
And what makes it move? How does that even work? Bring that up, Trevor. Can you give me some? You see what I'm looking at?
I don't have any footage of it on here, but I call it, so it first ran off batteries and a solar panel, and the batteries went dead, and I'm like, this sucks. I don't like taking batteries to a landfill, because I was trying to come up with a green way to raise chickens. So I figured out a way to do it with supercapacitors. There's no battery in it, and the supercapacitors never wear out, and I call it the Clux capacitor.
Is this kind of an example?
Yeah, that's what it's like, except mine moves itself. Mine's like a Roomba version that's robotic.
And so what is the point of it moving?
Well, you know, chickens poop, and you don't want them walking around in their own poop.
Oh, yeah.
They also like to eat a certain amount of grass and bugs, and so this gives them fresh forage, and it keeps them out of their poop. They don't get disease. It fertilizes my yard, it mows my grass. Everything's all happy in the Clux capacitor.
I gotta get a damn chicken, dude. Or a little batch of chickens. I gotta get something. I almost bought my mom 2 goats, but for years she's like, give me some goats, and then she didn't want it. She just has a problem with everything. But anyway, so what is a flux capacitor?
Clux capacitor.
Okay, what is
It's the circuit that I designed. So I'm a double E by training, electrical engineer by training, and I just had to come up with some way to keep my chickens alive and keep them healthy while I went to DC. So I came up with this circuit board that's got capacitors that trickle charge from a little solar panel the size of...
So Thomas Massey is a congressman in Kentucky who lives off the grid, owns chickens. That's crazy.
a sheet of paper, and it's got an automotive winch in the front, so it can pull itself even if it weighs 2,500 pounds along a cable.
So you don't pay an electric bill?
No electric bill, no water bill, no sewer bill. I do have an internet bill because I use Starlink.
Oh yeah. And is that legal? Are you allowed to legally be a person like that?
Well, you know, they tried to bring more regulation to our county 20 years ago before I was a congressman, and I wrote letters to the editor and mobilized people, and we stopped them from bringing more regulation to our county. So it's still legal where I live.
Wow, because it seems like a very libertarian, or almost like like a lot of the ideas seem almost very like something you would see like on the Democratic Party, which sounds kind of wild, you know?
Oh, I'd say I'm the greenest member of Congress, and no Democrat has come after me. No fact checker has ever tried to check that fact because they know it's true.
Wow, it's kind of crazy that the greenest member, with the term greens, is now a Republican, because you wouldn't necessarily think that.
No, you wouldn't think that. I mean, I have a Tesla that charges off the solar panels on my house.
The Democrats, the left is for EVs, for no coals, for no gas, for the weather, climate change, climate control.
Collect rainwater, dug well. I've got a bunch of trees that I'm not cutting down. They are bringing in all kinds of CO2. Although I like CO2, I wish I had more because it makes my peaches get bigger on my farm.
Oh yeah.
I raise grass-fed cattle.
And what kind of group do you have helping you over there? Because I don't think you can't get out there first thing every day and do it all.
I do it myself, 90% of it. I mean, if I'm in DC and the cattle get loose, I got a neighbor, you got to have some neighbors that'll help you.
Yeah.
And the deal is I'll help them when they need help. Oh, there's a picture of my cattle. They are Angus crossed with Wagyu. I call them Wangus.
Oh, wow.
Angus beef.
Oh, yeah, it's a little urban over there, definitely. That's definitely,
There's the, not the black sheep, but the white cow. He kind of stands out. I say I feel like that white cow in DC some days. Yeah, like, do I really belong in this herd?
Yeah. Yeah, you seem like a little bit of like an outsider, I think, like a black sheep or like a maverick. I feel like people say, if they talk about a maverick, then they say Thomas Massey, How much money do you save by living the way that you do, like off-grid?
I don't think I've saved a dime. It costs a lot to do it. You can save money by heating your house with wood, which I do. But if you start counting the how much you're paying yourself when you chop that wood. It's probably about $3 an hour, and I could go work at Dollar General and make more money than I do when I save money heating my house with wood. So if I were completely, poor, I could keep living, but to set all that up took a large investment. It would probably pay off by the time I die.
So you just want to end the book with the book.
Zero, yeah.
Yeah.
Just clear the tab when I leave the bar. No debt. No debt. Yeah.
Yeah, because you always wonder, like, okay, I want to live off the grid. But there's a real cost to it. A lot of that cost is sweat equity. Do you feel like?
Yeah, it's sweat equity, and it'll pay back. Unlike what we're doing in D.C. I mean, if we were borrowing money in D.C. to fund the future, I could be for borrowing money. The problem is up there, it's not like on my farm where you invest in fences and you invest in livestock. In D.C., we're just pissing away the money and living.
Just like in the other episode, on PPD episode, the mayor or the governor for New York City, $60 billion, and then everything free. That's what he's talking about. Just throwing away all the money.
On basically our seed corn, we are taking what should be saved for the next generation and spending it now.
Is that how you feel?
Yeah, we're robbing the next generation, but it's got so bad, we're robbing ourselves 5 years from now.
Right, it's getting that close.
Yeah.
I've heard you talk about, are you talking about the national debt overall?
Yeah.
Okay, I've heard you talk a lot about it, and I see you got your,
This is my debt badge. It shows I've got 3 levels of brightness, so if you wear it to the movies, you can tone it down and not blind your date. But, okay, so I got on the brightest level there. Hopefully your camera can see it.
Yeah.
I wear this every second I'm in the House of Representatives. I wear it in hearings. I wear it in elevators with Democrats. They think it's how many steps I've taken. But I built this using my electrical engineering degree. I came up with this idea and I built it. It's got Wi-Fi. Once a day, it connects to the treasury.gov and calibrates to the penny. So it's the most accurate debt representation that you can have. In fact,
Holy shit,
it's
dude.
let me make sure.
You're like Mark Zucker-Twain.
This is I brought you one as a gift. Yeah, brother. So
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
you can just stare at the number, just spinning all day long. It just clips onto your pocket
What
there.
kind of woman am I going to meet wearing this, though?
Oh man, I don't know what kind you've been meeting, but you've really upped your game with that thing.
You think?
Yeah.
They're going to think I am way broke.
I had a female congressman staring at my chest the other day, and I had to tell her my eyes were up here. And then she asked if I would make a belt buckle out of it.
Oh, damn, brother. Yeah, people want it all nowadays. People just want to see your damn wiener if they can for free sometimes. I'm like, get away from me. But let's talk about the national debt. Actually, because can you explain it to me? A lot of people don't even understand the national debt. We hear about it. What is the amount right now, too?
Well, we don't even really know. I mean, this is the regime number. The one that Treasury publishes is 36.2 trillion, roughly.
$1 trillion.
Okay. Yeah. Now you see this one online?
Uh-huh.
It's not that accurate. Like it's off by a few hundred billion. We were shipping these debt clocks. I don't make them, but my son-in-law makes them and sells them. And he had somebody go online and find this debt counter and say, "Oh, you sold me a faulty debt badge." And he's like, "No, ours calibrates with Treasury every day."
It's so sad that we can't even get even our debt clock doesn't even. At least invest in the fucking clock that shows the debt, right?
Well, what they might be trying to do there online is anticipate when we lift the debt limit. Like, right now we've hit the debt limit, so it's stuck at $36.2 trillion. Every day they sort of reset the number until Congress raises the debt limit. Now you say, how do they do that? Well, they start selling off the postal workers' pension fund. They take the money that's been saved up to pay your postman his retirement, and they use that to fund other parts of the government. They can only do that for a few months, and that's what we've been doing for the first 6 months of this presidency. And pretty soon we're going to run out of all those extra things we can spend.
That we're leveraging, basically?
Yeah, we're leveraging all that, and they're going to have to pay it all back. So we really probably are closer to 36.6 or 36.8 trillion.
But is that a common practice, like leveraging like pensions or, I don't want to say like Medicaid and Medicare, they're not leveraging that, right?
Oh, anything they can get their hands on.
Who approves this? Who are the ones that bring this to the table?
Liquidate it. And they spend it, for instance, to buy bombs and send them overseas. that all that deficit spending right now is not funded by treasury bonds. That all the new deficit spending is funded by, you know, the trust funds that have been established that might have money in them.
Okay, I'm a little confused on that.
Well, it's like this, Theo.
Uh-huh.
Let's say you saved up for your kids' college.
Okay.
They've been going to college, and you got enough to pay the next semester in college. But your credit card comes in, and your credit card gets canceled. So instead of renewing your credit card, you just spend your kids, you know, next tranche of tuition or something. But you got to find that money before the next semester comes back, or else they get kicked out of school.
Okay, and so how do we find that money? Like, because obviously we repeatedly...
Well, Congress is going to pass a law here in the next few weeks.
So we're out of money.
And they're just going to say, oh, well, there's no debt limit. It's now $5 trillion higher than what we said.
They move the limit up.
They move the limit up. They get a new credit card. They go.
So we're out of money. We don't have money to borrow. And what they're doing is new credit line. New credit line, more money, start spending.
Wow, they start borrowing new money to pay off the money they borrowed, and it's a vicious cycle.
Got it. And it's obviously it's a cycle that we've been in for a long time. I think to the point where like the national debt doesn't even make sense to people, right? It's like, here's my question: is who do we owe the money to?
Some of it is owed to institutional investors, like the big banks in the United States. Some of it is owed to sovereign wealth funds, like China, Japan, other countries that buy our debt for us. And here's the problem. Right now, they're telling us we don't want to buy your debt at 2% or 3% or 4%. We want at least 5% return. And so everybody thinks the Federal Reserve is setting interest rates. You know, there's all this discussion. Will the Fed raise the rate? Will the Fed lower the rate? The reality right now is the Fed can't do much, because if they lower the rate to, let's say, 4%, and try to tell people to buy our debt at 4%, the people who normally buy our debt, those foreign countries and those institutional investors, are saying, you're not a good investment at 4%, we want 5%. And that's a big problem, because just to put it in perspective, you know, let's round this number. If it were $30 trillion and we were paying 5%, that is $16,000 per family. I've already done the math. I'm not doing all that in my head right now, but it's $16,000 per family of interest that we are paying.
Got it.
So when you pay your taxes for your family, the first $16,000 goes to nothing, except for the interest that's paid to those foreign countries and to the big bankers.
So we're never going to defeat this number.
You know, we might get in a situation like Puerto Rico got into a few years ago, where the people said, we're just not loaning you anymore. And you know what happens that day? It's actually kind of it'll be scary for a lot of people. For me, it would be a good day, because that's the day we have to balance the budget. When people say, we're not going to loan you any more money, you're not a good investment, we don't trust that you'll pay it back, that is the day that you can only spend as much money as you take in on any given week.
And are a lot of people in Congress aware of this and like battling it? Or it just seems like it's almost...
So I think that what he's saying is, one day they're gonna say, you know what, I don't want to buy your debt no more, and America's only gonna tell the people, okay, today we're not gonna buy or sell anything. Go home and eat. Take care of yourselves for a period of time. He's saying that they're not gonna buy or sell anything. America's not gonna trade. He's not gonna be able to sell the debt, and they're not gonna buy the debt. America's gonna get to a point where he's gonna tell the people, hey, y'all take care for yourselves for this moment of time. The people are gonna panic. They're not gonna be ready.
It seems like we don't even hear about, like, it seems like it's one of those things you hear about during the election cycle, and that's about it, you know? Like, we're going to balance the budget, and it never happens. No one ever balances the budget. Like, do you think anyone, either one of these parties, even want to balance the budget?
No, they're not serious about it. That's why I built the debt bench, to like shove it in their face every day, and they're still not concerned about it. mean, they're a little bit concerned, but as long as they can get reelected, they're not that concerned.
Right.
And I don't blame them for all of it. I blame the American people who keep reelecting people because they tell them you can have these things and it won't cost anything. So
like the New York's mayor, Mamdani, that guy is saying $60 billion he needs for free housing, free baby baskets, free buses, free child care, free. That is the problem.
I hear people talk about like mass deportations, and there's $100 billion to DHS and $50 billion to DOJ to do mass deportations. Well, we know it doesn't cost that. Whatever Trump has intended to do, it's not going to cost $150 billion. But people say, I don't care what it costs. And the reason they say I don't care what it costs is they don't think they're paying it.
Yeah.
They don't care what anything costs. They don't care what war in the Middle East costs because they don't see that they're paying.
Yeah, but the deportation we do need. We got a whole bunch of people that if we don't get out, how can we take care of? If you're saying we don't have money to take care of our own people, then we do need to get people out, the people that don't belong here. So it can be easier for Americans to live. The problem that is coming is that there is no money. And people are borrowing more money. That's when they want more than ever. They want more than ever free stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's all gotten so confusing. And when you start with communication with people, even on a financial front, of this Hogwartsian number.
Yes.
When you start, because we all learn basic math in school.
Yeah.
Some of us learn algebra. Some of us go on to learn some higher maths, right? But when you started with this, the regular person doesn't know where to begin. You feel literally like numerically defeated out of the gate, right? The average person, because it's like it's impossible. So this sets everything up with impossibility, right? So I think that's why we've gotten so far. We've gotten 2 generations now into complete impossibility of numerical reality when it comes to even having some of the discussions. I think. Does that make any sense?
No, that makes sense. It's virtual reality.
Right.
The last 5 digits on this deck counter, they change about $80,000 a second. That's like a Cybertruck being launched into the ocean every second. Like
That's crazy.
boom, boom. That's how much debt we're taking on.
I hope the new model looks a little bit different. I have a Cybertruck, and the
Let's put my
model.
camper in it.
Oh, I don't know if we can fit it in there.
I don't think so. That's why I have an F-250.
Dude, yeah, I think I need to get something that I want something that it feels like you'll burn to death when you hit something. You know what I'm saying? That's what I like about something that's got some real fuel in it. But this thing definitely.
Oh, there's one with a camper.
But I think the new ones will have better camper abilities. There's no way to get out of the inside, like through the back window right now. And it kind of feels like you just work for Lowe's, but you never drop off what you're delivering. You're always like, where does this go? Like how much meat's in here? It just has that very whirlpool of frigid air kind of energy. But it does go very fast. You almost feel like you could beat an email somewhere. Like that bitch is fast, dude. Let's talk, since we're talking about debt, let's talk a little bit about the big beautiful bill, right?
Yeah.
And you oppose it.
Yeah.
Right. And there's reasons that I've learned recently that I oppose it. I don't know a ton of them, but I know some of my reasons, but I don't know everything that's in the bill. Why are you against it? Because it's not going to help our debt.
I believe the big beautiful bill is the bill that Donald Trump is coming in. The one that Donald Trump and Elon Musk had a feud over. I believe that's the bill that they're talking about.
No, that's the first big lie that's told about the big beautiful bill. You can finagle the numbers. The big beautiful bill looks at a 10-year spending window, okay? And what it does is in the next 5 years, it's going to add to the deficit. Like, nobody disputes that. Even the number crunchers that work for the president know that's going to happen. What they're claiming is 5 years from now, it will start to break even and reduce the deficit. The problem is, the people I serve with, a lot of them aren't going to be there 5 years from now. President Trump's not going to be there 5 years from now. big beautiful bill doesn't force people 5 years from now to do that. It suggests that they should do that, and it will do that unless somebody does something different. But they're going to do something different 5 years from now. We'll get to that point and they'll say, oh my gosh, that Congress 5 years ago set up a fiscal cliff. We're going to be hit with tax increases on seniors. We're going to be hit with tax on tips. We're going to be hit with tax on overtime. Oh my gosh, the military's not going to get as much money as it got last year. We got to do something about this. And so what they'll do is they'll cut taxes again, and they'll increase spending again, and this deficit will never go down. And I'm not even talking about the debt. The deficit is how much you add to the debt every year. It's about $2 trillion. It's going to be above $2 trillion next year, and for as far as the eye can see.
But I got to talk with J.D. Vance a couple of weeks ago,
What do
and
we
he was
do?
talking about, but that a lot of what's happening now is still because of the last party that was in.
Yeah, and a lot of it's still because of what Trump did when he was in last time. So
I was wondering how far it's tough to like as a regular person, it's tough to correlate how far up or downstream you are from whatever who is actually responsible for whatever's occurring. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, but you know, in 2020 we had COVID hit, and they put a $2 trillion spending bill on the floor, and I was the only one who would oppose it. I said this is going to cause, and Trump was president and Pelosi was speaker, but they were working together. I said this is going to cause massive inflation. You're going to have shortages in the stores, and this is going to last for years. And the inflation, once it happens, the prices will never go back down. And that's exactly what happened. They said Congressman Massey, the president's chief of staff at the time, told me. He said, it was Mark Meadows, who's a friend of mine. We both worked together in Congress. He said, the reason this is $2 trillion is so we don't have to pass another one of these. It's just going to be painful once. Well, guess what? By the time December rolled around, under Trump, we passed another one of these stimulus packages that was over $1 trillion. And don't forget, people got a $1,200 check the first time, and they got a $600 check the second time. I told folks...
Oh, and people wanted more money. People wanted more money, more money, more money.
That's the cheese in the trap. That most of, you know...
I remember most people that got the money didn't even go work. People got money, they didn't go work. They stayed home. And what did they do with the money? Straight to fast food restaurants.
$1,200 check, you multiply that times the number of families in the United States, it wasn't 5% of the spending in that bill. Most of that money went to corporations and banks, eventually.
Yeah.
And so everybody's responsible for it. Everybody wants to point to the other party for it. But, you know, I don't want to upset too many people who like wrestling, but it's like the WWF, okay?
Oh, it's felt like this for years. I think everything is turning into the WWE. Everything.
Yeah.
It's all like optics and the way things are shot, and this is out there, and this is what you believe. It's like interviews that are just to get the hype, and then they off stage, they're all in the locker room, like rubbing GHB on each other's backs and stuff like that, and gramming out.
Let me tell you something that probably will shock your listeners, whether they're Republican or Democrat. Mike Johnson, since he's been the speaker, and he's only been the speaker for less than 2 years, has put 183 Democrat bills on the floor and passed them. What did he trade for that? Like, I thought we were breaking chairs over top of the Democrats' heads in the back room. No, that's not what's happening.
Is that true?
Yeah.
How many bills does a regular congressman put through? I would like to know that answer.
How do I look that up?
Go to congress.gov.
Mike Johnson's out of Shreveport.
Yep. He's the Speaker of the House.
Oh, yeah.
But you can see, like, if you... I'm not sure how you look it up here at congress.gov, but if you spend enough time here and look at every bill that's passed since he's been Speaker, and I'm not talking about the special bills that reassign committee members. I'm talking about bills that do something. 183 Democrat-sponsored bills. And you might say, Theo, well, the Democrats have good ideas, okay? We should put their bills on the floor. Well, if I had a good idea, what Speaker Johnson would do would take that bill from me, put somebody else's name on it, and put it on the floor. Like, if there's something that needs
Why?
to get done, why would you let a Democrat get credit for it if you're in this mortal combat with the other party?
But has he made a lot of Republican bills pass too?
Yeah, there's been way more Republican bills than Democrat bills, but why is he?
Where's the problem? I don't see the problem. I don't see the problem that you're saying. You're saying Johnson has been putting a lot of Democrat bills. Then he asked you, does he put also Republican bills? He says yes. Then what is the problem between putting Democratic bills if they're good bills? Or are they not good bills?
He passed one Democrat bill.
Well, I think, don't you want to work with the other team? And it's like, isn't there diplomacy and everything? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to, like, there's a give and take to everything, I feel like.
We got the majority. Like, why are we putting their bills on the floor? Why would we go in that direction? I understand in the Senate you need 60 votes, so you got to have a Democrat.
But some of the bills are good, right?
If Thomas Massey has a good bill, then put another Republican's name on it and pass it.
But I can't understand what you're saying now. I guess I'm a little bit confused. Are you saying that
Okay.
Mr. Johnson, who is he's the Speaker of the House, that because bills get brought to him, he puts them on the floor,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
He's the one who's
okay,
like, okay, let's
okay.
put this on the floor and take it to a vote,
Mhm.
right? And you're saying that he's done that with more.
So Johnson is the one that gets the bills and brings them to the floor. Hey, let's talk about this. Hey, let's talk about that. He is the one that gets the paperwork and brings them to the floor physically.
Democratic-led bills than Republican-led
No,
bills.
he's done it with 183 Democratic bills. There's probably been several hundred Republican bills. My question though is, why would you put one on if you're engaged in this kind of mortal combat for the soul of the country,
Mhm.
and he acts like that? It's because people aren't paying attention to what's going on there.
Oh, I agree that I think people aren't paying attention. I think it's all so confusing. I think to the regular person,
It is.
that it feels like the ship sailed long ago from us being at the dock, looking each other in the eyes with some sense of hope.
Congress is this big giant black box, and people can't see what's going on inside of that black box. They know they're electing their congressmen and two of their senators and the president, and they're sending them to Washington D.C., and then they don't understand what comes out of that box.
Mhm.
I've been in that box for 12 years,
Okay.
and I think that's sort of what my role has evolved to, which is to just try to tell people what's going on inside of the box so that they can do a better job of picking congressmen and senators.
That's what I always think. I'm like, if somebody would just get elected, just to get in there and tell us we don't even fucking. No, we'll buy you a Volvo or whatever. Fucking, you know what I'm saying? We'll give you some Taiwan Semiconductor shares, but just tell us what's happening in there. Somebody fucking look in there and just throw a note out and be like, hey, this is what's really going on. Now the problem we start to get into is there's so much like pandering and everything, and all so much social media used to like try and disguise who the messenger is. It really turns into a game, and I think that is one thing that's the only joy of it, is watching the masters of this just Game of Thrones type of energy go on. But
So the biggest, I'll tell you right now, this would be 50% of solving the problem. It's not a silver bullet, but it's a lot of it. Get rid of the giant bills, okay? The omnibus bills, the continuing resolutions, and even the big beautiful bill.
Mhm.
Why not put that shit on the floor once?
So he's against the Donald Trump bill. He's telling us, in his point of view, he's saying the big beautiful bill, we should get rid of it.
at a time.
I agree.
And then that way, you can go to your representative or your senators and say, why did you vote for that? Right now they can say, well, Theo, I had to vote for it. I had a pay raise for soldiers, right? They literally will put a pay raise for soldiers in every freaking bill.
Oh, okay. I understand what he's saying. I think he's saying that there's a bill. A bill is a paper or a contract or a statement of sorts that they want to do these type of things. And in the bill comes several things that they want to do. In order for it to not look as bad, they put pay raise for veterans. So if you vote against it, they'll tell you, ooh, you didn't want to raise pay for the veterans, even though you voted against something else that the bill says. That's the reason they cram it all together, so they can pass the little laws in between the big law. They have a bad idea, they put that bad idea behind the good ideas, and then they pass the good idea that has 3, 4, 5 bad ideas in back of it. That's what I'm getting from what he's saying.
Right, Bill. So that if you vote against it, you have to go back home and watch TV ads that say he voted against a pay raise for the soldiers.
Right, even though he may have voted for 90 other amazing things on the bill, right?
Right.
And that was one thing that was tied in there, that if you went this way, you know.
Yeah.
It may have been like oxygen for grandmothers, right?
Literally, there probably is that in there.
But if you vote for oxygen for grandmothers, then they're not going to give. So I see what you're saying.
I voted against oxygen for grandmothers so many times they can't even run that ad anymore. It doesn't even seem real.
Hotels in Las Vegas may be booked solid this weekend, but there's one vacancy against Kai Kara France in the co-main event. Who am I taking? Why, I'd love to see Oliveira win by submission. First time betting on UFC at DraftKings? Well, just pick something simple like a fighter to win and make your pick. It's that easy. And if you're new to DraftKings, check this out. New customers who bet $5 will get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code THEO. That's code THEO for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. What happens when your health becomes the punchline? From seed oils to stress, toxins to pollutants, the modern world is screwing with our health. At the fuel stamina, elevate focus, and help you function like a human again. I take Armor Colostrum. It's easy. I make my smoothie, I open the packet, bam, put it in there, and I know it's going to help me. We've worked out a special offer for our audience, armra.com. Tighter than ever. If your business can't adapt in real time, it's one system, 3 insights for leaders at NetSuite.com. Has there ever been a bill that was like, okay, we want to stop these omnibus bills? And bring up omnibus bill. We looked it up the other day when Mr. Vance was here, but I just want to go over it again. An omnibus bill is a proposed law that covers a number of diverse or unrelated topics. Omnibus is derived from Latin. It means to, for, by, with, or from everything. An omnibus bill is a single document that is accepted in a single vote by a legislator, but packages together several measures into one or combines diverse subjects. So it's not even really fair because you only get one vote on the bill?
Correct. And so typically an omnibus bill, it includes at least 12 other bills. Because the 1974 Budget Control Act, there's a law that says we're supposed to do these bills separately. So we've already tried the law. We already tried that, Theo. They just suspend that rule, those budget rules, every year.
Okay, so but take me through this moment so I don't go stray from it, so people envy, so I can understand it. So, like, give me 2 examples of things that would be on an omnibus bill that would be that there's no way for a voter to win, that there's no way for a representative to vote and win on.
Okay. Well, the easiest. Let me just take something topical. The Big Beautiful Bill. Inside of that Big Beautiful Bill is a provision for artificial intelligence corporations. It says no
10 years.
For 10 years, no state or locality can regulate them. And then it talks about zoning and routing, which you know, some of your listeners may have seen this, like locally, some big corporation wants to put a data center in your backyard. Well, that's what Congress is trying to do. They're trying to say that these corporations can override local zoning laws, that the local zoning board should take a back seat and let this big information center show up in your backyard that uses all kinds of water and all kinds of power and puts out all kinds of RF and has, you know,
oh yeah, your fucking cousin's gonna be walking down the street just fucking, just fucking screaming out Amazon orders, It's gonna be, the shit that's gonna start happening is gonna be crazy. You're literally gonna be driving on the road with your windows open, and an old gust of 5G remnants from Blockbuster emails that never got uploaded, are just gonna pass through your fucking vehicle. Shit's gonna get insane. You're gonna have babies that are born with advertisements, like birthmarks that show up. This is a set of twins with Nike logos on them. What is happening, man?
So that's in the big beautiful bill, okay? And you can know that's evil, you can know that's bad, and Trump never campaigned on that. But also in that bill is to enforce our borders, okay, to finish the wall.
Right.
So if you're a Republican and you vote for that bill, okay, you supported enforcing the border, but you also let AI basically take over your local and state governments, okay? And then if you vote against it, well, then you're against the AI provision, but oh my gosh, you're for open borders, you know? You don't want to support the military. There was $100 billion in there for the military.
Yeah.
There was, you want to tax seniors. There was a tax cut for seniors. There was an extension of the tax cuts from 2017. I voted for the 20.
That's how they play it. They put good ideas and then put bad ideas right behind it. So they can disguise their plans. They can disguise their plans. They just keep going through.
17 tax cuts. But I voted against this 2025 bill because it's got a lot of crap in there that doesn't belong, and it's going to balloon our deficit.
Right.
So you can't win for losing. And so I don't blame a lot of my colleagues. Like, they come to Congress, they have the best intentions, and you get there and you're like, oh my gosh, this whole game is rigged. How am I going to play it? Am I going to call it out? Will that be the best for my constituents who elected me? Or should I play along? And most of them choose to play along.
Yeah.
And you can't really blame them. They feel like, oh, my fiduciary duty to the people who elected me is to get as much as I can up here, and if I piss off Trump and I piss off Mike Johnson, I can't get any table scraps. But the reality is, they're not even getting table scraps. They're trading, I say every week, congressmen trade their votes for magic beans that never sprout. Like Jack and the Beanstalk. He trades the cow for magic beans. The difference is Jack got beans that sprouted. My congressmen, they're not getting gas vouchers. They're not getting a Cracker Barrel gift certificate.
So explain to me how that part works. So that's a part that I don't understand, because you mentioned it a little while ago. You're like, I could have a bill and I put it forward, because Mike Johnson seems like a good guy. He doesn't seem like somebody that would take something that was yours and make it somebody else's. Like, I don't understand what you're saying. Like, how does that work? And take me through, like how can you put a bill out and people would know it's your bill? I mean, obviously, is there information online that says this is a bill that Thomas Massey made? Or that any person made, like any representative made?
The other thing they'll do with your bills is they'll stick them in another bill.
Okay.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah, show me how you're saying that people aren't even getting the scraps or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Take me through some of that.
Well, they're not. I tell people, I joke with my colleagues up there. They're like, Massey, why? You're not a sellout. I'm just like, I look at them in the eye. I say, I'm the biggest sellout up here. Like, I would sell out for Snickers bar, but you guys aren't even getting a Snickers bar. You're not getting a bridge in your district. You're not getting a new exit off the interstate.
Yeah.
You're not getting anything for your vote. Like, nobody's ever offered me anything up there of value. I don't even know myself I could be the biggest sellout there is. There's just no trade up there that's worth taking. And so, mostly people are trying to stay relevant and get reelected.
Right, that makes perfect sense, right? Everybody's looking out for themselves in a sense.
So the people that we put in Congress, they're just trying to get more votes and trying to stay there, trying to stay in the seats, trying to keep their jobs. That's all they're trying to do. They're just trying to keep their jobs. So what do? They'll say anything, they'll vote on anything. Just keep them there. That's crazy.
But you would think at some point that even that would lose its appeal. When you look around your town or your community and you see that, like, oh man, by not really benefiting the people, it's all falling apart. You know, by not really benefiting the country, it's falling apart.
Yeah, but I think right there the problem is us. Is the people. Who are we putting into to speak for us? Who are we putting into these high places that can speak for us and are doing no good for us?
Ah, fuck, I'm starting to sound like a downer again. I don't want to do that.
It should.
But take me through what you're talking about. How you put a bill up and it doesn't get labeled yours. So it's plagiarism? Or I don't understand what you're saying.
And then if you do get something done by working inside of the system, you won't get any credit for it. So for instance, when Ron Paul left Congress, I came into Congress. And I
That's
introduced...
Randy's daddy?
Yep, Rand's dad. I introduced a lot of Ron Paul's bills, and one was the Industrial Hemp Farming Act, because it was illegal. They treated hemp just like marijuana. It was illegal to grow it, according to the federal government. So I introduced that bill, and I got a lot of co-sponsors, and I figured out a way to work with Democrats and get it into the Farm Bill. Now, it was a Republican Farm Bill that I got it into, but I needed Democrat and Republican votes to do it, and I got it in the Farm Bill. But now, like, people online say, oh, Congressman Massey, and it became law, by the way, and people can grow industrial hemp in all 50 states. That's the end of that's the rest of the story.
Oh yeah, a lot of chicks that don't wear deodorant are working on those places. And no offense, ladies, I don't mind it. But yeah, no, I'm glad that we have another product in our country, you know.
Right. And so that became law. That was one of my bills, but nobody ever gives me credit for it because it wasn't a separate bill that said. And by the way, I voted for that crap sandwich, the Farm Bill, which is a big giant bill. And then I took crap for voting for that because it had my thing in it, but now I don't get credit for it. But I haven't particularly had bills where somebody took my name off them and put somebody else's name, but my colleagues have.
Okay, so you haven't had that exact thing happen to you for Mike Johnson?
No.
But you've seen it happen?
Yeah.
You're saying?
And if it did, I wouldn't care that much. I mean, if it's a good bill, make it happen. But a lot of people, you know, they need to go back to their district and say, I got this done.
Oh, I see. So a lot of times people don't know from their Congress people or their representatives that they actually got this thing done.
Right.
Right. So there's a communication issue there.
And then there's another thing that happens, like some congressman gets to D.C. and they have this bill they wanted to pass even before he was a congressman, and they say, we'll put your name on it, and then you'll get credit for it. And then the congressman has no idea about the subject or anything. So there was a bill that came to the floor, it was about opioids, okay? And I voted against it, and the sponsor of the bill comes up to me and says, why did you vote against my bill? And I said, well, I'm not against research or things like that at the federal level, but this is basically a form of Obamacare, and I thought we were against that, like, because this had treatment and stuff which should be handled at the state level. And he looked at me and said, you're right. He said, I'd vote against this too if it weren't my bill. He said, the leadership gave it to me and told me to bring it to the floor and it would help me get reelected.
Wow.
So people are voting for bills just to get reelected, even if it goes against their principles, even if it goes against their ideas, even if they don't like the bill. If they're being told, if you vote for this bill, you're going to get reelected, they'll just vote for it. They'll bring it to the table and they'll vote for it. How is that for the people? How are we the people letting these guys get into the office and then switch up on us like this? Just for the votes?
I swear to the Lord above, that is an exact conversation I had on the floor.
Yeah. Oh, I believe you.
Congressman from Wisconsin. He's still there.
He is?
Yeah.
White guy, I bet, huh?
Oh, yeah.
That was a guess, dude. That was a guess.
By the way, but not to pick on him because that year we passed like 38 opioid bills.
Yeah.
And they're all redundant. They just gave everybody that were trying to get reelected, they give them an opioid bill.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they were renewing more prescriptions for opioid pills than they were opioids. That's the craziest fucking part of it. And the Sackler family never even went to fucking jail. And some people believe that the Sackler family should be electrocuted. Allegedly. I don't know them, and I don't even know if electricity will work on their fucking sick, evil bodies. Is that slander for saying that? Can I go to jail for saying that? But death threat.
You can, but I can't. So maybe I should say it. There's something in the Constitution called the Speech or Debate Clause. And so I can go to the floor of the House of Representatives and lie. I can tell every lie I want, and nobody can do anything about it. And it's called the speech or debate clause. Our staff, look this up.
The speech or debate clause found in Article 1, Section 6 of the U.S. Constitution protects members of Congress from being questioned in any other place for their speech or debate in either house. So we read it again. Protects members of Congress from being questioned in any other place.
Which means you can't be questioned in a courtroom, you can't be sued, you can't be... Now read the next sentence though, because there's a good reason for it.
This clause, rooted in historical struggles for parliamentary independence, aims to safeguard the independence and integrity of the legislative branch by preventing interference from the executive or judicial branches.
So,
Okay. So these people can lie. The reason they can lie and be protected of it was because other entities or people that are bigger than them can tell them, hey, you better say this, you better say that. Or hey, you better not say this, you better not say that. And they can take them according they do. You get me? And the president can be like, hey, you said this, you're gonna get locked up. You're gonna go to jail. I'm gonna put you in court for saying this.
so when people, even our founders, this is a hard pill to swallow.
Okay.
But
I'm
even
still a bit confused at this moment.
Well, even our founders thought that there were some laws that shouldn't apply to congressmen because if they did, they would get abused. And like a Democrat president would arrest members of Congress for saying things on the floor of the House. Because that's what the king did back in England. The king would arrest members of parliament if he didn't like what they said.
I see what you're saying.
Or you could get a private individual to sue a member of Congress for something they said. And then that would basically freeze the debate, and members of Congress would be afraid to speak. They would send their speeches to lawyers before they said them, if this didn't exist.
I see what you're saying.
So this is kind of a fascinating little part of our Constitution, and even though it seems wrong to give members of Congress extra First Amendment protection, the founders thought this was the best way to do it.
So you could go to court right now and lie on the stand?
No. I can lie about anything, but I gotta be on the floor of the House, or it has to be attached to my official business. So I'm probably covered on social media, and I could just say defamatory things about you. I could release national secrets, and this also covers my staff as well.
God, interesting. But am I going to go to jail for calling the SAC? Let's say got electrocuted?
Yeah, probably.
Shit. So I have to delete it out?
No, you need to run for Congress.
Oh. That's hilarious, dude. And I don't really even say those words myself. I just say that on the spirit of hundreds of thousands of opioid addicts who died channeling through me for just a brief second. Forgive me. I'm back. All right. It starts to feel like neither party. Wait. So could I'm thinking about this. Could Mike Johnson put a bill on the floor about the omnibus thing?
Yeah.
And then we could see who would vote for it and vote against it?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be a good idea. It would be a good idea to break it down and to see who is voting for and who is voting against the little things.
But he's not going to.
Right. Because it would be too dangerous.
It's way too dangerous. I mean, the lobbyists love it that way.
Yeah.
They love the opaqueness of that black box, that Americans can't look into it and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Because they're inside the black box.
They
get to craft language and special provisions. And
So he's saying the lobbyists are inside the box. The people that are lobbying America, they are inside the box.
this big giant bills, and they're so big, and we're not given time to read them. But you got to remember, Theo, like a lot of my colleagues wouldn't read these bills even if they were given 3 months to read them. What they're doing by rushing these bills through is they're not hoodooing the congressman, they're hoodooing the public.
Of course. No, I think it makes perfect sense. It's like, because we just send one set of eyes and brain up there to handle something, you know, or a couple sets.
Yeah.
You have a few reps, and then but it's so much information at once. It's all the same thing. It's literally like a bus passing by. It's like with a car passing by, you can get an idea of what's on. You can look at the wheels. You can check the exhaust. You don't be able to see who's in there. But when a bus goes by, you're like, fuck, I don't know. You know, was the driver awake? You know, it's kind of like, you know, that's how it certainly starts to appear.
And the windows are painted black on the bus.
Oh, yeah, dude. And somebody wrote "just married to a trans man" on the windows with chalk or whatever, with window paint. Here's my question: is anybody representing the people anymore? Because it kind of feels like, it used to feel like the parties were against each other, and now it feels like it's the government versus the people.
Yes.
That's what it feels like.
Yes.
I think it is. I mean, I call it the uniparty. Last year, Marjorie Taylor Greene and I introduced a resolution to oust Mike Johnson. After Mike Johnson put a bill on the floor and was the tie-breaking vote to send more money to Ukraine, after he passed another omnibus, after he passed another bill to spy on Americans, using mostly Democrat votes, because a lot of Republicans are waking up to that and didn't vote for it. After he did like 3 or 4 really bad things, Marjorie and I put a resolution on the floor.
Which you think are bad things, right?
I think they're bad things.
Okay.
Spying on Americans, sending all the money to Ukraine. Yeah, I think they are. I think they're not Republican priorities. And he's a Republican speaker. So we put a resolution on the floor to vacate the speaker's office. And
What does that mean? To get a new speaker?
get a new speaker.
Okay.
And typically no Democrat will vote for that. And if he doesn't have enough Republicans to sustain that vote, he will lose and you get a new speaker.
Why would no Democrat vote for that?
Well, for the first time in history, they did. Like, they did vote to keep Mike Johnson because it was as good as they've ever had. They were getting everything they wanted.
He was helping their party.
Yeah, he was helping their party, so they kept him in power. So it is really hard to change things. You can occasionally get people to try, but the consequences of trying and losing can be great. Like, they call up all the lobbyists and say, quit giving money to that member of Congress. They'll call up donors in your district. They'll call up constituents and have constituents call you up. Or the new thing recently is to fund social media campaigns. The NRCC, National Republican Congressional Committee, they spend money on Twitter influencers who then do things against who knows what. I mean, they're directing it. That part isn't transparent, but it's directed toward me, for instance. Our own party is coordinating efforts against me.
Well, then at that point, that's what I'm saying. There's a party it's them against you.
Which is okay. I've got a thick skin.
Right, but I'm just saying, it feels like it's you guys are playing this game, but it's all against the voter. None of it is for the voter anymore. It doesn't, you know what I'm saying? It's like, it feels like, I don't know, it just feels like it's the voter against the politicians. And
because the politicians are playing the game. They're trying to pass laws and have their names on them. And have people vote on them, and for them to stay relevant, for them to stay in the seat, for them to stay making money, for them to stay hot. But it's not for the people. The people in the seat are willing to do what is best for the people in the seat and for anyone who gives them the vote, but not for the people.
It feel really, really scary for sure. Have you thought about becoming an independent, or is that death?
I've thought about it a lot. And one of the things that surprised me when I got to Congress is there's 2 of everything. So there's 2 cloakrooms. There's a Democrat cloakroom
Again, there's a Democrat cloakroom
and a Republican cloakroom. This is like when you show up to vote, there's a little clubhouse, 2 little clubhouses attached to Congress. You can go back there and get a hot dog and a hot ham and cheese, an ice cream sandwich.
Oh yeah, get a hot blonde too.
That is our cloakroom, right down the right.
Is that really?
Yeah, you go back there, although there's some computers as well. That's looking in one direction. If you look in the other direction, there's a sandwich. They're not showing the sandwich bar.
Oh yeah, I'd love to.
Oh, there's the sandwich bar. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah. Now that's the Democrat cloakroom. The Republican one looks just the same. Okay. But here's the
Even a
thing.
little mortadella, huh?
There's only 2 cloakrooms. So if you were truly independent and you came to Congress, there'd be nowhere to get a hot dog
have to go to
or to call. People go in there and call their lobbyist friends. Like during votes, you'll get a call and they'll say, hey, don't dare vote for this, or maybe they'll call up, a member of Congress will go to the cloakroom and call and ask for advice. In any case, there's also things called back rooms on every committee. You've heard of backroom deals? I couldn't believe it. When I got to Congress, people are using the word back room because there are back rooms behind the committee rooms where you go back and do your huddle. But there's only 2 huddles. There's the Democrat huddle and the Republican huddle, and there's only 2 back rooms. So I say if you were an independent, you're going against the architecture. It's not just tradition. It's built into marble and oak.
Wow.
There can only be 2 parties. That's how strong they have put it in. You know, and if you're bipartisan, that means you like both parties. I say that I'm not bipartisan, I'm transpartisan. Trans means you can't identify with either some days. I don't know which cloakroom to go into.
Wow.
Some days they don't want me in either cloakroom, so I feel like I'm a transpartisan.
Well, at least you can just be out in the van outside, you know.
That's right. Some days I have gone out to the camper and just like drink some raw milk and just be like, we're so screwed. Let's go back in and try it. But I think it is hard. It would be really hard to have an independent party. Or to get elected as an independent. I think
Yes, that's true.
But never forget this. There's really like
There's
6
no
parties
backbone.
up there in D.C. and they've been shoehorned into 2 different cloakrooms.
Right.
And so you got to pick which. And
So either way, if you had a separate party, you're kind of still in one cloakroom or the other. You're kind of still in one huddle or the other.
yeah. So there's a guy from Maine. His name's Angus King. He's a senator and he runs as an independent and he gets elected as an independent and then he goes into the Democrat cloakroom. So yeah, that's him.
Oh yeah, he definitely looks like a Maine guy.
So he gets elected.
Undeniably wears a raincoat at night.
You may have heard the term rhino, Republican in name only. Well, I have a friend who calls him an I-know, an independent in name only, because he gets elected as an independent, and Bernie Sanders did this too, and then caucuses with the Democrats.
You know, I've been involved with different financial groups that sponsor the program over the years, but none has really piqued my interest.
So there's only 2 parties. If you're gonna be, even if you're a solo, you have to join one of the 2 parties. There's no way to go about it. Even if you're gonna go against the whole grain, you're not gonna make it. You have to join one of the 2 parties. But the both parties feel like they're against the people. The people who need to do better and start electing better representatives, better people to speak for them in these seats. The problem is that we are putting people on the seat and he is not doing what is best for the people. And then we do not look back at what he is doing actively and then taking him out. If he is not doing what we put him there to do, we need to take him out and put someone else that will do what we need them to do. Put them back in there. And we need to do this at every state, at every city.
Just as much as acorns. Sometimes it feels like the whole world is trying to spend your money. Here's the technicals like pen testing. So whether you're an or HE,
lobbyists over at the White House as they are in Congress. Because
so what do you mean that some people are almost just elected lobbyists?
Well, no. They spend their time talking to White House officials. Because even though we're the legislators, the White House sends recommendations for bills. And the same party is in power in the White House and in Congress, like the Big Beautiful Bill, for instance, the legislation can initiate over in the White House. And so lobbyists, I'm just saying, you think of lobbyists talking to your senator and your congressman, they're all over D.C. They're talking to bureaucrats, they're talking to people, cabinet secretaries, because they know it's sometimes easier to get written into the budget if they're over there lobbying. Another thing to know about lobbyists, I mean, there's lobbyists for the Alzheimer's victims, or people who have Alzheimer's. There are lobbyists. Yeah, there are lobbyists for people with rare blood disorders, okay? There's lobbyists for the Concrete Association. If there is a group of people, they have lobbyists. And so they're, in some people's enemies, lobbyist enemies are other people's lobbying friends. Like there are pro-Second Amendment lobbyists who are up there fighting for the Second Amendment. And you know, the Democrats hate those lobbyists, but those are lobbyists the Republicans kind of like. So the question is, you know, and sometimes my constituents, they don't know how to get to D.C. and how to talk to all the congressmen from Kentucky and both senators, and so they hire lobbyists to come and do that. I don't know that I would outlaw lobbyists. Sometimes they're actually helpful. Like, let's say the concrete lobbyist, you got the concrete lobbyist fighting with the asphalt lobbyist on what's going to be the road surface, okay? Well, if all you hear is from the asphalt lobbyists, you would just buy asphalt. And then you hear from the concrete lobbyists, and so it's really, to get to the truth, you need adversarial opinions. The problem is, I wouldn't blame the lobbyists for advocating for their group of people. I would blame the congressmen who basically put that crap in the bills. And again, I would go back to separating the votes. How do you know that your congressman is sold out to Big Pharma, for instance, if Big Pharma is only one-tenth of the bill?
Right.
And there's pay...
I agree with that. I agree with that. I agree with breaking down the bills. Breaking them down. Show me what the bill really has inside. Let me vote on every single thing that the bill has inside. Don't give me one vote for 5 things. Break the thing down. Show me. Let me see. Explain to me what the bill is step by step. Give me one thing by one thing. And then we can go about it. Give it to the people. Open it up. Give it to the people. Let the people see what is inside the bill. One thing by one thing. And let's all vote on it. Don't give me a big paperwork, a big bill with a bunch of things and tell me, oh, are you for this or are you against this? No, because you're gonna give me a whole bunch of shit and for me to vote for one good thing. Let me vote single situation, one by one. I want to hear it. I want to be well versed. I want to see what's actually going on in the bill before I can actually say yes or no. I need to see it. I need to see what is actually in the bill, piece by piece.
Is for veterans in there.
So they can hide the fact that they're selling out over here by buying in over here.
Yeah.
God, it almost sounds fun.
Now, there's one group of lobbyists I don't think really should exist or should have access to U.S. offices, and those are foreign lobbyists.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard you talk about this before, and I've heard a lot of people are talking about it now. It's definitely become a hot topic. And
yeah, I agree. Foreign lobbyists? Foreign? Whoever is in the seat should be for the people of America. Foreign? How can we have someone else make rules for us? How can we have someone else lobbying on behalf of American people if they're not from here? If they're foreign? How can they know what's best for me in Texas? In my own city, if he's not even from here? How can he tell me what is best for me? If he is foreign, he's not from here. He does not know what's best for me. I trust my neighbor to know what's best for me more than someone else in Mexico, in Israel, in anywhere. I trust my own neighbor, the guy that lives next to me, to know what's best for me. A person that's not in America.
AIPAC is one of the big ones, and that stands for American
Israeli
AIPAC,
political.
there you go.
It's not a fund. It didn't start out as a super PAC. So
Political Action Committee.
Public Affairs
AIPAC.
Committee. There we
Public
go.
Affairs Committee. American Israel Public Affairs Committee.
Now, a lot of times PAC stands for Political Action Committee, like you said, but these guys were started before there were Political Action Committees, so it stands for Public Affairs Committee.
Got it.
And they brag that they've spent more on elections than any other lobbying group
In the world.
in the United States.
In the United States.
In Congress.
Okay.
They now do have a political action committee, and I forget what the name of it is. So AIPAC has a subsidiary that spends money to basically crack heads and congressmen. So there's two kinds of, by the way, there are two kinds of lobbying groups. There's access lobbying. That's where they're all your friends. They're never mean to you. They would, even if they don't like you, they'll buy you a steak dinner, and they'll try to get you to hear out their point of view. And they figure, as long as I can get in that person's office, I'm doing well for the people I'm lobbying for. But
Okay.
then there are confrontational lobbyists like AIPAC, and AIPAC has transitioned into a confrontational lobbying group where if you don't do what they want, they come after you.
Wow.
They
What does
spent-
it look like?
They spent $400,000 against me in my last election. And they are basically advertise themselves as just all things Israel. They are lobbying for more money to go to Israel.
How?
Which, all the money we give to Israel is military.
How do we have people lobbying for money for Israel in America? When we in America, we're broke, we're in debt. How do we have people lobbying for more money for Israel when we, as Americans, we are in debt? We have homeless. Our homeless are through the roof. We have veterans in the streets. How?
Military money. So they are basically lobbyists for the military-industrial complex.
Got it. Understood. So,
For war.
and I'll ask you some questions about that, the military-industrial complex, in a few minutes. But do you feel like Israel is a fair ally? Are they a good ally for us?
Well,
Or is that too general of a
It
question?
doesn't matter if you're an ally. You can be friends with us, but you do not need to be telling me what to do or my rules. You could be friends with me and not tell me what to do in my house.